Hello, the purpose of this video is to walk you through how to create your MLA works cited page for your paper that includes sources. So a few key things before we get started. It's important to know what a works cited page actually is. It's a list of the sources you have used and cited in your paper. So what you want to keep in mind is that, first of all, every source you use, even if it's just ideas from a source, not word for word quotations, every source you use should be cited within your paper and then also included on the works cited page. And you shouldn't have any sources on your works cited page that don't have corresponding citations. So only what you use and everything you use within your paper should appear on that works cited page. The purpose of the works cited page is so that your readers can find your research and go check out those if you would like to, and also so that you're paying proper credit to the people whose ideas are helping inform your paper. Some formatting basics. The works cited page will be on the same doc as your essay, so it's not a separate document that you submit along with your essay. It's part of your essay. It just comes on the very end. We're actually going to create it on a separate doc, but then you'll move it onto the end of your previous doc. It goes on the next page, so at the top of the page after your essay concludes. It's called Works Cited, so you'll have that title centered on top. If you only have one work that you have cited, you call it Work Cited instead of Works Cited. It's double-spaced throughout with no extra spaces between the sources. You use Times New Roman 12-point font. Make sure the font is black. Alphabetical order by the first letter of each citation, which is usually the first letter of the author's last name. And then you'll use hanging indent, and we'll talk about what that means and looks like as well. I just want to remind you as well to use the textbook as a resource. So depending on the semester that you're watching this and the textbook version we have, you should be given reading for this week that includes where you will find this in the textbook. As you are creating your works cited list for this paper, remember any source you use in the paper needs to be cited. You want to come back to this source list because it has for each source all of the information that you will need to put in the citation. So, because some of these are came from somewhere else, right? And so I want you to have all the information available. If you look down at the bottom as well, there's a few reminders here. Don't forget alphabetical order, but also the formatting for each type of source that's represented on this. So this is sort of a shortcut for you. An online article will look like this. So when we are creating our works cited page, I actually like to grab this, so I'm going to copy, and I'm going to start a new document. Now remember, this will actually appear on your paper document. It won't be a separate document in the end, but I like to create my works cited page on a separate doc at first, and then just copy and paste it to the bottom of my real paper, right? So here is what a citation will look like for an article, and I know from my source list that I have some articles. So let's say we are going to cite Gary Gutting's What is College For? So I'm going to take this too, just to work on it for a while. Ooh, what did I do here? Undo that. Okay, just to work on this for a while, I'm going to take it here and put it on my document. It will not look like this as an endpoint, right? But here I need the author's last name, comma, first name. So I'm going to now start to fix this so that it clearly reflects Gary. And then the period stays, right? Title of article goes in here. So I'm going to put What is College For? With a question mark. You can see website source here, and that's in italics, and we want it to be in italics, so I'm going to put New York Times. Date. Now the date is formatted like so. So you'll abbreviate the month, but if there is a specific date, it will come first in MLA format. And then the URL comes here, so I'm actually just going to grab the URL. I'm going to copy and paste it here. And then we do not actually want the URL to be a link on our paper. So to get rid of that, for me, it's a right click and then remove link. Okay, so we can get rid of that. Okay, now you'll notice some things. Number one, it's not in times 12 because that's not the original doc. So we want to make sure it's in 12-point font. We want to fix it to Times New Roman. If there's any highlighting or text color changes, we want to make sure it's all black. And of course, it's not in hanging indent yet, and it's not spaced correctly either. So we're going to fix those things eventually because so far this isn't formatted correctly. I can get rid of this for now. I also want to mention that you can use the citation machine online, but sometimes they get things wrong, and they definitely get the formatting wrong as well. So let me just show you how citation machines work. In case, and I also want you to keep your brains on while you're doing it. I'll show you some of that too. So I'm just going to create a citation. You want to pick the type of source. So a lot of these will be websites. And then most citations as well will ask you, well, what is the website? But actually, you probably want to go to create manual citation. And then you're going to put the information in here. Okay. Now, when you do this, you want to make sure that you've chosen MLA, selected MLA on this website, but be very careful because I see a lot of students, sometimes oh, look, it's going to do APA, it says, right? Oh, here we go, right? So I accidentally selected APA, and that might have messed up my, my citation. So I'm going to go back to create manual citation. Here we go. All right. So article title was, what is college for? Right, so I can fill this out, and I'm going to pause and sort of fast forward here for you. All right, so it's created this citation for me, so I can copy the citation, right, and then take it to my same doc. So, obviously it would be a different one. You're not going to use the same one twice. So notice it put it here, right? Sometimes when you copy and paste, it'll have highlights. So some citation machines have like a yellow background, and it'll come into your document looking yellow. So again, anytime you copy and paste into here, you want to make sure it's all correct. There's no highlights. Everything's Times New Roman. Everything's 12-point font, right? And then we also know that this should not be underlined. We don't want any wonky formatting on here. All right, so let's pretend these are two different types of citations. We know that we need a title, so I'm going to add Works Cited. We also know that the whole thing should be double spaced. And then we want to check as well that if it says here, remove space after paragraph or before, we want to click that because we don't want, sometimes it'll put, you see how here there's like actually extra spacing between paragraphs. So we want to make sure the whole thing, oops, get out of there, is just double spaced. Should look sort of like that in our, our beginning format. And then we want to use hanging indent, but sometimes if you put your thing here and you tab over, it tabs the wrong thing. It doesn't think you're smart enough to know what to do. And so to use hanging indent, here's a trick. Select the whole thing, all of your sources, select them all, and you can go to Format, Align, and Indent. Make sure it's all left justified first. But then if you go to Indentation Options here, you can go down to Special Indent and select Hanging. This should auto-populate to 0.5, so just double check that. And then ta-da, it hanging indents for you so that you don't have to mess with it thinking you're doing the wrong thing. Oh, I must have put the date in wrong on one of these. That's okay. All right, so here we have, and you can see here, this is actually an error. We don't want this period here. So, double check to make sure that it came out correctly. Here's an extra space that we don't want on the one that I copied and pasted from the citation. And make sure this is in italics. Sometimes the container should always be in italics, but sometimes the citation machine doesn't format the italics correctly. All right, so here we have our Works Cited page. We've double checked to make sure it's all correct and appropriate. We're going to then take this down to the bottom of our regular paper.